visit an American city, you will find it very pretty. But two things which you must beware. Don't drink the water and don't breathe the air. The city streets are quite a thrill. If DDT doesn't get you, the monoxide will. Pollution, pollution. Wear a gas mask and a veil. Then you can breathe, but don't inhale. You can use the latest toothpaste and then rinse your mouth with industrial waste. Throw out your garbage, and I've got a hunch that the folks downstream might drink it for lunch. So go to the city. See the crazy people there. Like lambs to the slaughter, they're drinking the water and breathing the air. There was a time in our uncluttered past when there was clean air to breathe, clean water to drink, and plenty of green grass to walk through. But all of these things are almost gone now. Our air is dirty, our earth is littered, our waters are polluted, and our bodies are contaminated. Children of the future might very well have to be content with reading about clean air and water in history books, or climb up on Grandpa's knee and listen to him reminisce about the old days when it was possible to catch fish in a lake, and you could breathe the air without having to take an anti-pollution pill. In the not-too-distant future, these things will be only fading memories of bygone eras. Contrary to many beliefs, pollution is not a recent predicament. The problem began when the colonists first landed on this continent in the 1600s. Their attitudes and practices shaped an American culture of extravagance and waste. Since there was always more land than people, the settlers could never imagine the land becoming filled, much less overpopulated. It was early in history that we made the mistake of not developing a responsible relationship between ourselves and nature. Abuse and exaggerations of our economic and democratic principles are also responsible for our bulldozer-type attitude toward nature. Our economy operated on the principle that unless we kept expanding indefinitely, disaster would prevail. Similar reasoning has countlessly been used to justify the building of more freeways, more cars, more airports and airplanes, more everything. All we have to do is look at the rush hour of any major city and see thousands of cars pouring toxic gases into the air to realize that progress is not necessarily always good or desirable. Yet this false equation is still being propounded by polluters today as justification to continue their polluting of the environment. Corporate polluters have inserted their right to condemn millions of people to a slow death by continuing to release deadly gases into the atmosphere and continually using our major waterways as their very own private toilet. Of course, your right to breathe clean air and drink pure water is irrelevant if it infringes on the rights of others to pollute it. The roots of waste and pollution are deeply ingrained in American character and culture. The individual exaggerates his rights by choosing to remain unaware of the problem and apathetic toward its solution. He only furthers his plight by continuing the use of internal combustion engines and not revolting against the automobile and petroleum industries. Each day he purchases non-biodegradable packages rather than encouraging the industries to develop products that could harmlessly be introduced back into the environment. People everywhere are constantly being bombarded by environmental literature in newspapers, magazines, and on television. Ecology clubs are springing up all over on college and high school campuses, and hundreds of communities are making an all-out effort to clean up their cities and towns. The recent Earth Day activities are indicative of nationwide concern. There is much to be done, and people, both individual and amassed, are powerful enough to induce constructive efforts and concrete actions toward making this a survivable world. At first, Sins of waste and pollution were committed out of ignorance, because the tons of garbage were simply not visible to a majority of the people. But today, pollution is painfully evident. Already, we are burying ourselves under 7 million scrapped cars, 30 million tons of waste paper, and 76 billion discarded cans and bottles a year. A million tons more of garbage pile up each day. The air we breathe circles the earth 40 times a year, and Americans contribute 140 million tons of pollution to it, 90 million from cars alone. Lead in San Diego's air settles in layers on the Pacific Ocean. Los Angeles smog may cause mass deaths in this decade. Noise straining our lives doubles every 10 years. There are 5,500 Americans born each day, and 100 million more by the year 2000. This is the big business of pollution. The problem does indeed seem insurmountable, both from a monetary and action point of view. But scientists have given man some time within to work, but that time is extremely short. It doesn't make sense to say that we don't have the money when the 1971 fiscal budget has allotted $73 billion to the military and only $1.6 billion for pollution. Our atmosphere and population are rapidly approaching the saturation point. Ours might be the last generation that will be capable of handling the situation in the accustomed democratic manner. We can easily see an Orwellian civilization, where world controllers would have to exterminate whole segments of people as undesirables in order to ensure the desirables enough food and water. Would you want to take the chance of being singled out as an undesirable? If you're an American, your chances would automatically be slim. You constitute only 6% of the world's population, yet you consume 35 to 50% of the world's natural resources and contribute 50% of the world's air pollution. You're accustomed to the highest standard of living. An Asian child is accustomed only to the bare essentials and wouldn't be so hard to please. Who would be a more logical choice, an American child or an Asian child? Solutions are within our grasp, but again, only if we act now. Man's whole attitudes and values have to undergo radical change if he expects to continue to live on this planet. No longer can man afford to believe that he is isolated from nature. The time has come for all of us to realize that we are an integral part of our environment, that we are the guardians of the earth, and not her dictators. Even if an Orwellian world did not come about, the predictions of scientists are not pleasant. Within the next 50 years, the oceans will no longer be a productive force. Americans will be subject to water rationing by 1974 and food rationing by 1979. Hepatitis and epidemic dysentery rates will climb by 500%. Scientists further speculate that within 25 years, between 75 and 80% of all species of living animals will become extinct, and an ice age will come by 2030, flooding cities all over the world. These are just a few of the warning flags that have been flying in our faces for years. We must stop and take toll of what almost 300 years of brutal rape has done to our environment. Not so much for ourselves, but for our children, for it will be they who will inherit the earth regardless of its condition. And right now, the conditions are terribly frightening. Would you condemn your children to death? time demands that we as Americans revert from our present freewheeling, ecological laissez-faire to a merger of economics and ecology. We owe the Earth the space we fill. If we don't do something about saving our environment just might do something about us.